Hello friends, welcome back to A Good Life Farm. So this video is part of a collaboration that was organized by my friend Anna over at Fermented Homestead, and today I am going to be making a sourdough recipe because of course the collaboration is called Fall into Sourdough, and so it's been a month-long series of sourdough recipes. Earlier in the month I shared a sourdough recipe, and this is my second submission for the collaboration, and so I thought I would take the opportunity this morning, since it's actually going to be a work day outside. That's why I'm kind of ready for the outdoor work, but the dew right now, we had a super heavy layer of dew go down. The grass is really wet, and so I thought, well, I'll just go in the kitchen, I'll do my sourdough video, give the grass some time to dry out, and then I'll get going out there later today. But the recipe I'm gonna make for you today is another super easy, great way of using up some discard, and it's for sourdough crackers. Now, this cracker recipe, you can use all different kinds of herbs and seasonings. You can use fresh herbs, you can use dry herbs. Today I've got a little bit of my homemade everything bagel seasoning, and so I'm just going to use a little bit of this. But you can really play around with these crackers. You know, if you're going to be having, say, an Italian soup and you want something with a little bit of an Italian flair, some crackers to go with the soup, you could use Italian seasoning. You could use just some fresh oregano. You know, you can really play around with this. And as always, there will be a printable version of this recipe on my website. If you are brand new here, I have been a writer and blogger for well over a decade, and over at my website, agoodlifefarm.com, there's over 700 recipes, tons of articles, and lots of things for you to enjoy. So I am going to throw on an apron and we will get started. Alright, so to start off, you're going to need 120 grams of all-purpose flour. And today I'm just using store-bought, unbleached, organic all-purpose flour. You can, of course, make this recipe with home-milled flour, but I'm just using this today. Next, you'll need 50 grams of extra virgin olive oil and 250 grams of your sourdough discard. So I've got a little mixing bowl right here, and I'm going to add in my all-purpose flour that I measured, and I'm going to add in my seasonings. And like I said, you can really mix up the herbs and seasonings that you use in this. You could make them plain if you wanted to, and just maybe use a little bit of sea salt like sprinkled on top of the crackers. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in about 2 teaspoons of my everything bagel seasoning. If you were using fresh herbs for this, you would want to use about 2 tablespoons or so of minced fresh herbs. I'm just going to stir these together real quick. I'm going to add in my extra virgin olive oil, and you can also use regular olive oil with this as well, whichever one you prefer. Our sourdough discard. And then we'll just kind of stir this together. Now, I actually don't think I'm going to need my dough whisk, just because this looks like it's coming together just fine. Alright, so now I'm going to clear my space off here. And I'm going to take a little bit of oil. I'm going to put it in my hand. So I'm going to oil my hands, and I'm going to very, very lightly oil my surface here. And this will help prevent the dough from sticking to my hands and to my surface quite so much without having to add a bunch of flour. I mean, you can always flour your surface as well. All right, so now I am just going to knead my dough. And it is going to be a little bit sticky. That is quite all right. Now we will add a little bit of flour later when we roll this out, but this works just fine for the time being. We're just going to knead this for a minute or so until it's good and combined. I've got a fresh bowl here. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of oil in there. Kind of spread it out. And that's just to keep the dough from sticking to my bowl. And I'm going to take my dough here and I'm going to set it in the bowl. And I'm just going to let this rest for about half an hour. And while that's resting, I'm going to go ahead and clean up my mess. And then I will preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. My dough has been resting here on the counter, and I have 2 sheets of parchment paper. So I'm going to take one sheet, I'm going to lay it down, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on there, just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to take my cracker dough. And I'm just going to kind of pat it out a little bit. All right. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on top here. And I have my second sheet of parchment paper there just in case I need it. I may not. It's just going to depend upon the moisture in the dough, etc. because I don't want my cracker dough to stick to my rolling pin, and so if it does start to stick too much, I can lay down the second sheet of parchment paper and use that as a tool for rolling out my cracker dough. But you do want one sheet, you might want 2. So I'm just going to roll this out nice and thin. Now, if you happen to have a pasta roller, you can use it for this. I do not have a pasta roller, and so I'm rolling it out with a rolling pin. But of course, if you do have a pasta roller, you can use it for this step, if you so choose. I kind of like the hands-on aspect of doing it this way. All right, just like that. So now, ooh, this is like super blown out here. Let me move this around here. It's one of the challenges of filming during bright daylight. The sunlight kind of blows out the exposure. So I've got my cracker dough here rolled out nice and thin. And I'm going to take a pizza cutter and I'm just going to cut this into crackers. And my pizza cutter is a pizza blade, but you can use a pizza roller if you have one of those. Now, if you want your crackers to be perfect, you can cut off the rough edges and just kind of set those aside and then cut into perfect little rectangles. I'm not worried about my crackers being perfect. These are my crackers, and so I'm not worried about those uneven edges. So I'm going to cut these into about 1.5 inches or so squares. And I didn't need my extra sheet of parchment paper today, and so I'll just go ahead and put that back in my stack when I get done here. Now I'm just going to take a fork and I'm going to poke a couple holes in each cracker. And it's not a problem if your crackers are not all the exact same size. Don't worry about it. Your taste buds do not care how they look. Your taste buds only care how they taste. So if you've got a cracker that's a little bit bigger, maybe just poke a couple extra holes in it. Now I'm going to take the parchment paper covered in crackers and I'm going to slide it onto my baking sheet. Just like that. Now I'm going to take just a tiny little bit of oil, just a little bit more. And I'm going to take my pastry brush here and I'm just going to very lightly brush a little bit of oil across the top of the crackers. Just very, very lightly. Now, if you want, at this point, you could sprinkle a little bit of sea salt over the tops of the crackers. My everything bagel mixture already has some salt in there, so I'm not going to add any more. Okay, now this is going to go into the oven for 8 to 12 minutes. It's gonna vary based upon how thick your crackers are, how hot your oven runs, but you want to keep an eye on these because especially the littler ones, they may burn very quickly. So you want to watch it, set your timer for the 8 minutes. If it needs a little bit longer, give it a little bit longer, but just keep a close eye on the crackers. Alright, so my crackers are done baking, and I actually did have a couple of them get a little bit on the dark side. You can see right there in the corner. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of slide these out onto my cooling rack because this baking sheet I have here is a really heavy stainless steel one, and it kind of holds the heat for a bit, and I want these to cool down. So I'm just going to slide those out. And we'll just let these cool completely. And then once they're fully cooled, you know, we can store these in an airtight container. And you know, this recipe doesn't make a ton of crackers, so you can very easily double this. That way you've got lots of crackers for snacking on, for having with soups, things like that. And just like any other cracker, you would just store them in an airtight container in your pantry. Alright, so that is it for today. Be sure to check out Anna's video where she shares all about this collaboration, and you can learn all about the giveaways that she has been hosting throughout the month and get all of the details on that. I will put a link down below to the playlist of all of the videos of this collaboration, and that way you can see all of the channels who are participating and check out all of those great videos. So again, if you are new here, we live in north central Alabama. We have a homestead here where we planted roots after 25 years of active duty Army life, living everywhere from Alaska to Europe. And here on the channel, I share new videos every week of homesteading, home cooking, and back to basics. You can stay up to date on everything happening here at A Good Life Farm by signing up for my free email newsletter, and I will put a link to that down below. Thanks again for joining me here at the homestead. My name is Constance at A Good Life Farm, and I'll talk to y'all next time.